This international story, I mean, it's been going on for quite some time now and still is carrying on today. That's the Russia-Ukraine standoff. Conflict or tension has everybody on edge. There are reports the Ukrainian government forces and pro-Russian rebels have increased shelling in the eastern part of Ukraine for a second straight day. Washington and other Western allies say this could form part of a Russian pretext to invade Ukraine. So what is really going on, and what would this war mean to the world if it happens? Well, I'm joined now this hour on eNCA here on DSTV Channel 43 by Alexander Arefiev, Press-Attache, the Embassy of Russia in South Africa, Ambassador Liubov Abravitova from the Ukraine, and Will Stevens, the United States Acting Consul General. Well, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for your time and for being with us here this afternoon. May I begin with you, Ambassador from Abravitova. What's happening? What's really happening from the information you've got? We are far away here in Johannesburg. This is playing itself out so far away, and so many reports. When I looked now, just a minute ago, on global news, and as I'm looking here on Google, I mean, you get these live updates coming up from all kinds of news channel and all sorts of headlines. From your view, ma'am, what's happening on that border?
Good day to you and to all our viewers. And yes, indeed, the messages are coming through, and I'm wondering why we see them only now, because these messages are coming through already for 8 years. Since 2014, when Russia first occupied our territories, when the Crimea was annexed. Now it's just the escalation. It's just the threatening with full-scale invasion. So it's not something new that is happening in the world, and the world was aware about this. Now we can speak about it more in details if you would be interested, of course.
Yeah, we will do so, ma'am. But I mean, I guess to answer your question, why are we noticing it now? It's exactly from what you've said. It looks like there's been an escalation. We've seen reports of saying that there is more Russian troops that have been deployed there. So from the Russian perspective, let me ask you, Alexander, why the escalation? Why has Russia decided now to increase the troop presence on the border with the Ukraine when so many years ago Russia invaded and occupied part of the Crimean Peninsula?
Well, first of all, I would like to mention that there is no escalation on Russia's side, because the Russian troops are conducting military drills in the area that was previously designated, and the all troop movement in Russian territory is exclusively Russia's sovereign right and Russia's business. So there were no escalation from Russia's side. And as for the Crimea issue, it was not occupation, it's reunification of Crimea with Russia. And it was, the Crimeans exercised their right of self-determination in 2014 after a constitutional coup took place in Ukraine. So Crimea addressed Russia with a request to become a part of Russian Federation, and there was a referendum held in Crimea, and over 96% of all who attended that referendum spoke in favor of reuniting with Russia. That's what happened.
Okay, from the U.S. perspective, I mean, the United States has been very much in the news responding to this and threatening sanctions. Last week, Joe Biden, the president, saying that if anything happens, there'll be this repercussion and that repercussion. You are claiming there is an escalation from a United States perspective. And the other day, Russia issued a statement saying that they are scaling down, they are stopping their drills, they are moving back. But you say that is not true.
That's right. Russia has amassed well over 150,000 troops on 3 different sides of Ukraine. It's the largest buildup of troops in Europe since World War II. Russia says it's drawing down those forces. We do not see that happening on the ground. Our information is clearly showing that those forces are preparing to launch assaults on Ukraine in the coming days. They are armed to the teeth, attack helicopters, combat aircraft, artillery pieces. Russia's even moving blood supplies to the border. They have locked and loaded their guns and they point them at Ukraine. And the U.S. has been so aggressive in talking about this because we want to prevent a war. We want to prevent a humanitarian crisis in Ukraine, which will lead to countless deaths and tremendous consequences for the Russian economy. Our hope is that by talking about what we're seeing on the ground, we can make the world aware and help Russia choose the path of diplomacy and dialogue.
But you said, even last week I saw reports saying that the U.S. is warning of an imminent invasion or attack, let's say, on Ukraine, that within days. But you're still saying it this week, and it hasn't happened yet. I mean, how certain are you that Russia wants to attack Ukraine?
Well, as Secretary Blinken said just yesterday at the United Nations, we don't know precisely how things will play out. But our hope is that by sharing what we do know and what we are seeing, we can bring Russia to the table and prevent those actions, prevent Russia from taking those steps. We believe that Russia will manufacture a pretext for an attack. It could be a violent event that they blame on Ukraine. It could be some sort of outrageous accusation that leads Russia to then suggest that they have an excuse for attacking Ukraine. This is something that they've done in the past. It's something that they did in 2014 when they invaded the first time. So we are being as open as we can be, and intelligence is a tricky thing. Honestly, I hope we're wrong. I hope Russia doesn't take these steps. I hope they don't invade Ukraine again. I hope that they back off, de-escalate, and send their troops back to their barracks. That's what we hope the whole world believes.
Okay, Alexander, let me bring you in here. The rest of the world that is watching and observing, like America and everybody else, NATO included, from reports that we're seeing, that I've seen myself here, is that there is a lot of military activity that is happening there, and you are saying there's no escalation. So how do you respond to the ongoing clamor from different parts of the world that says Russia is preparing something, is waiting for a reason to enter, but there should rather be diplomatic talk? So how do you respond to the ongoing claims? Why should everybody be saying Russia is preparing to attack?
Well, first of all, I'd like to say on this ongoing, well, I can't put it differently, hysteria in the media with regards to the so-called Russian invasion. I think the entire world is a bit of overstatement here, because it's not the entire world who speaks of the so-called invasion. Even Ukrainian's President Zelensky said himself, asked the Western media, Washington and London, to tone down the hysteria about the so-called Russian invasion, and to provide with solid proof, provide the Ukraine with solid proof that Russia is indeed going to attack. So the Europeans are now, the top European officials are now on constant diplomatic trips to Washington, Moscow, and Kiev. So they're looking for a diplomatic solution. And as far as we're concerned, we're also looking for a diplomatic solution. And Russia has chosen the path of diplomacy long ago, and has been pursuing that path since then. So Ukrainians don't want war, apparently, so does Russia, and so does EU. So US officials, for some reason, keep telling us the invasion is going to happen. Last time President Joseph Biden said that it's going to happen on 16th of February, but nothing happened.
Yes, I guess because of the presence of so many troops, thousands of troops on the ground, yes, and equipment, and doing those drills at this particular time. I mean, if I was a Ukrainian like Ambassador Abravitova, I would be worried if across the border I can see so much movement. Ambassador?
Yes, thank you. First of all, I think that all of us will understand that the issue here is around Ukraine, but mostly it's around our aspiration to become the members of NATO, which obviously Russia doesn't want. And let me bring this discussion closer to the issue of the sovereignty of Ukraine and its right to decide which alliance and which organization to join. And now Russia, from the point of view of military, is trying to do so, that is pointing the gun at Ukraine, at our head, and they say, it's my gun and my business where I put it. Stop threatening me. No one is threatening Russia, and Ukraine is not accumulating its troops on the borders of Russia. That's Russia who is establishing different conflicts in the region, trying to show that this is the internal conflict. And you will hear this narrative from the esteemed attaché of the embassy. I'm still wondering why we cannot speak with the ambassador for so many times that we are having this online meetings, but I hope he will appear soon and also will represent.
I was hoping, Ambassador, that he would join. We invited the ambassador of Russia to South Africa, like you, as ambassador to the Ukraine, to talk to us. But unfortunately, he's not here. Maybe they have their reason. Okay, Ambassador Abravitova, Alexander Arefiev, and Will Stevens, stay connected. We'll continue shortly with this discussion here on eNCA as we try to get enlightened our viewers here on eNCA exactly what is going on. And also after 4 o'clock, I'll be sharing with you as a South African why you should care and worry about what's happening on that border between Russia and Ukraine if the tension continues and let's hope there'll be no war. And the Russians say they don't want to go to war. So we'll continue our discussion shortly on this. The Russia-Ukraine conflict could impact the rest of the world and, of course, us here in South Africa.